C in the recommendations not actually address that? So why would we want something further over and above C?
We're just trying to make it really, really clear that that is what C proposes, and I think Councillor Fletcher, you're right. If we just expand that a little bit, it says we will do this, and if we can just roll back up to the changes that we've made there. So we've clarified the recommendations. We could probably modify C as well, just to make it clear that we're going to address these issues via the sorting out of the licence. So let's just give people a chance to cogitate on that. Question from Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question relates to process, and first of all, congratulations, Jack, on the marvellous work you do out at the Botanic Gardens. My question relates to the status of the Friends. As I understand it, they are an independent group of supporters, Botanic Garden supporters, who raise funds for the Botanic Gardens and have a relationship with the council through a licence. Would that be correct? Yes. If they are applying then for these changes, it would be a good process for them to be here and applying. I don't know if they are, but it would be good to see a letter from the Friends rather than council managers. It's important that we don't blur the relationship. So I take it we have a formal request somewhere, because I can't see it.
Yes, so the Friends asked me at their executive meeting some time ago to request that council do approve this variation to how they utilise their funds. So this is being done with the full knowledge and support of the Friends Executive.
Yeah, I would like to see a letter or something formal. You understand that. Secondly, who paid for the operational expenses for these marvellous exhibitions which began in 2007?
So it has been a mix. So when we had a naming rights sponsor, that funding went towards it. Some patrons' money has gone towards it. Botanic Gardens has particularly helped out with covering security. And the Friends themselves have contributed $50,000 for the 2 previous exhibitions that has gone directly for operational costs. So it's been a mix of funding sources.
Is it frozen?
Okay, so I take it then that the Friends funding was raised and earmarked for operational expenditure.
It was very much tagged for operational cost. I should add too, there's been a number of companies that have done, if you like, contra work, such as Hawkins Construction. So it's not just all cash, it's also in kind.
Okay. The concern is that the Friends who have raised money or citizens who have given money for artworks are having their money diverted into OPEX, which really essentially is the responsibility of the council. That's my concern. So 2 concerns are possible conflicts and need for clarity between the request coming from the Friends rather than council staff, and secondly, money that has been earmarked for CapEx, if you like, or for artworks, to be explicit, now going into OPEX. I'm a little bit concerned about that.
Take my rope of the plans.
Okay, so that's clear. Margoff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jack, first of all, congratulations on the work that the gardens do. I drive by them 7 days a week, and 900,000 visits a year. That's a great achievement, and it's a real asset for Auckland. My question is, and I think the essence of this paper is really about sustainability. I take Councillor Simpson's comment, you know, I'm normally very reluctant to say CapEx and we'll use it for OPEX because we're not raising enough operating funding, and that's a bad principle. But equally, I guess we could have set you up to say you should be self-sustaining and you should sell, you should work on a commission basis, and the commission should go towards the running of the event. So if we redefined it, we wouldn't have the same problem, I guess. But the real problem is 114,000 you've got in capital funds there. How long did it take you to raise that? you're about to spend 67, 68% of it for the operating costs this year, but what do you do next year? That's the critical question, I think. So can you tell us about the sustainability of how this operation is going, because you can't keep raiding your funds in this way, and I presume if you took some years to raise that capital, it's not going to cover next year's event. You'll still have the same problem.
It's a biannual event.
Yes.
The year after next event.
So, yeah, okay, thanks. I agree with all your comments, and I'm very concerned about the sustainability of the event. It doesn't currently have a sustainable business model. The Friends' objective that I do support is to get the next one across the line and try to build from there a sustainable model that will see this, and I do think it is a great event, that it will carry on into the future. But currently, it doesn't have that business model. The $114,000 that has been accumulated has taken 10 years, and so it is really a one-off to be able to put this amount of funding, but the fear is that if we don't proceed with this event, that will be the end. It will be very hard to get it up and running again. It has huge support from the art community and from a lot of art supporters and people, I might say, in the horticultural world as well. So we really want to get this one across the line, but definitely we do need to work on something that is more sustainable in a financial sense.
Which is why my Amendment B was put up, so they could work with Mason and get that
Councillor, hang on. Councillor Quacks?
Yeah, just a couple of questions, and I was prompted to ask it by the question that Councillor Lee asked, and your response to that. You said that you lost a naming rights sponsor some years ago.
Yes.
Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, that was Pernod Ricard, who, so the first, I think, 3 exhibitions were called Stoneleigh Sculpture in the Gardens. And they put a substantial amount of cash and in kind into those 3 exhibitions.
So now, why did you lose that naming rights sponsor?
I understand it was Rugby World Cup. And we went down the pecking order, and so they decided to put a lot of money into branding during Rugby World Cup, and that was the reason we were given.
I'm also interested in the Mayor's question about sustainability, because this is not a sustainable model, I don't believe, that's being put up. And from my experience of running events, events do have a life. And sometimes we have to acknowledge that an event has come to the end of its life. It's no longer willing to be supported by either the paying public. We saw that with the Gardens, a show that eventually went to Christchurch, and then it died in Christchurch as well. So in your estimation, is this event perhaps coming to the end of its life cycle, and needs to be significantly refreshed?
My reading of the community response to the event is that they love it. It attracts a broader cross-section of the community, I think, than any other similar event. Between 350 to 400,000 people experience the event. The last exhibition, more than 120,000 people came specifically for the event. They came from all across Auckland. We got more people from Central Auckland than South Auckland during the period of the last event. Something like 67% of the people that came had not been to the Botanic Gardens for more than 12 months. So it does a lot for the Botanic Gardens in terms of growing our profile, but it does an even greater amount, I think, for the community, because it really is bringing outstanding New Zealand art in a beautiful garden setting to a lot of people that wouldn't normally experience that. And I think the point was made about South Auckland. A lot of those young people and people that would not normally experience superb garden art, they get to experience in Sculpture in the Garden. So I do think it's still got a bit of life ahead of it.
So, Madam Chair, just if I can add to that for Councillor Quacks, I think an important part of the next licence, which is for the next event in 2019, is to really work with the Friends around what the business model is and start much earlier with a very capable partnerships team within the organisation, and other valuable assistance have been offered of how we do secure a more sustainable partnership in terms of sponsorship and naming rights for this event.
Okay. But predicated on the fact that you need to be able to use the money that you make from the event on OPEX and the money that you get from sponsorship on your art purchase, which is the problem that we're trying to face now. So we could make this debate bigger than Ben-Hur, or we could just get on and be practical. So I think we've sort of run out of questions. Maybe we're at the stage where we just need to deal with the amendment and then move on to the substantive. So it either, you know, we're kind of all saying the same thing, there's just a little bit of detail. So I'll put the amendment moved by...
Just one other thing.
Yeah?
Does everybody know that this is free? That
Yeah.
this wonderful access to the sculpture is free to the public?
Yep.
If you look at other
reconsider that.
Yeah.
comparable exhibitions around Auckland, they're quite expensive to enter. So that hasn't come up in anybody's speech. It was just to say that it's free entry.
Thank you, Councillor Casey. I think hence everyone's passion to keep this going. Right, so let's deal with the amendment moved by Councillor Simpson and Councillor Darby. I'll put the amendment. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Oh. No. So the amendment is lost on voices. We'll move to the substantive, and if we can just have that up there. And you'll note we've just made some changes just to clarify and pick up the issues that we've been debating. We allow this to happen this year for the logical reasons that have been outlined, and we're going to update the conditions of operation to work towards that far more sustainable model that we've talked about. So it's been moved by Councillor Fletcher, seconded by Councillor Cashmore. Anyone wish to speak to that?
I just would like the right of reply, if I may, and also to give approval to the amendments that you have been crafting there. I think the use of the word approve is actually putting the thing in context in a way. So I'm in favour of that, and I'm sure that the Deputy Mayor is as well, because the grant, to say a grant, it implied something very much different. And just very briefly speaking to the points that have been made, and while I applaud Councillor Simpson for wanting to do a deep dive on this and not allow for any precedent in terms of operational funds being misused, I just don't think we can go past the fact that 900,000 people are visiting the Botanical Gardens. And of that, so much has been generated by this fantastic event, which is held every 2 years. I would completely dispute those who might think that this has a natural life and perhaps it's getting towards the end of that natural life. You just need to look at the visitations last time and think how this is over a period of months. This isn't just an event that happens in a week and it's all over and done with bar the shouting. I think too that for those of you who haven't actually been out and had a look, just imagine the time that it would take to assemble the James Wright acquisition from last year. It's a major constructional exercise in its own right, and I think that's the point that over a very large area. But I do pick up on perhaps what Mr Hobbs has delicately conveyed today. We can't keep the acquisition rate up at the pace that it's gone. These are huge pieces. These are really complex pieces, and there does need to be, in an open space sense, some really careful analysis on how that we can actually have these acquisitions given justice moving into the future. Again, I really want to compliment the Friends. They have been extraordinary, and their generosity and the way that they have actually brought partnerships and sponsorship to this event is not to be underestimated. So in the interests of growing the artistic sector, in the interests of creating a better understanding amongst our young people of the importance of open space and the creative uses of it, I really commend this to you and hope that we can work closely in the future and suggest that the small changes, the tweaking to the officer's recommendations, I think will work favourably in the future to ensure a sustainable event.
Lovely, thank you, Councillor Fletcher. That feels like a good note to end on. I'll put the recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried.
Just
Thank
to
you
note,
very
Madam
much.
Chair, it's Mr Hobbs's 40th year of working,
Oh my
41st year.
Well done, Jack. Thank you. So